The judge's voice echoed through that cold courtroom, and my soon-to-be ex-husband actually laughed while signing our divorce papers, completely clueless that his whole world was about to shatter. I'm sitting here replaying every second of that moment for you right now. But before I reveal exactly what happened when the judge read my financial statement, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and if you've ever been counted out by someone who thought they had you figured out. Go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to Anonymous Confessions. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this one to the end. My name is Sarah. And 6 years ago, I married a man who saw me as nothing more than a small-town project he could mold into the perfect wife. He had no idea what I was becoming while he wasn't paying attention. I grew up in a tiny Tennessee town where everyone knew everyone. My parents weren't wealthy, not even close. But they taught me something Michael's family never understood. They taught me that $1 saved is worth more than $1 spent on show. My dad worked construction. My mom did other people's taxes from our kitchen table. I'd sit there as a kid, watching her fingers fly over calculators, and something just clicked in my brain. Numbers made sense. They didn't lie. When I got into Vanderbilt for accounting, my parents cried. Real tears. The proud kind. I moved to Nashville with 2 suitcases and a scholarship, determined to prove that a girl from nowhere could make it somewhere. And that's exactly where I met Michael, at a coffee shop near campus. I was buried in my textbooks, highlighters everywhere, completely in the zone. He just appeared at my table like he owned the place. "You've got potential," he said, looking down at my notes. "You just need the right guidance." Have you ever had someone pay you a compliment that somehow felt like an insult? That was Michael. Every sweet thing he said had a little sting hidden inside it. He was a law student from old Nashville money. His family had been attorneys in this city for 3 generations. He wore suits that cost more than my monthly rent. And somehow, he seemed interested in me, the girl with Target jeans and a used laptop. The romance was like a movie I'd never been allowed to watch. Fancy restaurants, weekend trips to the mountains. He introduced me to champagne and valet parking and lobster I couldn't pronounce. I was dizzy with it. But even then, little things bothered me. He'd make comments about my friends. They just don't have much ambition, do they? He'd look at my clothes and suggest we go shopping for something more appropriate. I told myself he was just trying to help, that he saw something special in me. When he proposed in Gatlinburg, the whole restaurant clapped. The ring was stunning. The moment was perfect. I said yes before I could even think about what I was agreeing to. And honestly, that's when things started to change. But before I go there, if this story is hitting close to home for you, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now and subscribe to Anonymous Confessions. And drop a comment telling me about a time someone underestimated you. I read every single one, and I promise you're not alone in this. Our wedding was small. That was my one victory against his family's expectations. His mother, Margaret, smiled this paper, then smiled and said, "Well, at least Savannah is respectable. Even if you insist on keeping things simple." I should have known right then what I was walking into. But I was young, and I wanted so badly to believe I'd been chosen. We moved into his house in Belmead, one of those neighborhoods where the trees are older than most towns. Everything was gray and white and expensive and cold. I tried to add color. Photos of my parents. A plant I'd grown from a cutting. Michael would just remove things. Rearrange. Remove. The aesthetic needs to be consistent, he'd say. But what he meant was, you need to fit into my life, not the other way around. The first time I really felt the walls closing in was at a dinner party with his friends' wives. They talked about spas and charity galas and shopping trips I couldn't imagine. One of them laughed about something, and I heard her say, "Michael's little experiment with the middle class. Do you know what it feels like to be discussed like you're not even in the room?" I told Michael later, hoping he'd defend me. He just sighed. Maybe try a little harder to fit in, Sarah. Update your wardrobe. Take up tennis. They just need to see you're making an effort. Here's the thing about people like Michael. They don't want you to make an effort. They want you to disappear into what they've decided you should be. 2 years into the marriage, I was lonely, really lonely. Visits to my parents became rare because Michael always had an excuse. A work thing, a dinner. You know how your hometown is, he'd say. So provincial. My friends stopped calling. He'd made it clear they weren't sophisticated enough for a home. One time, my college friend Jessica asked if our wine was from California, and Michael mocked her for weeks, as if we'd served domestic. He'd say, shaking his head, I'd lost myself so gradually I hadn't even noticed it happening. Until the day I got offered a promotion at my accounting firm. I was so excited. Senior accountant. More responsibility. More respect. Michael's response? Is the extra money worth the time away from home? We're planning to start a family soon. Remember, except we'd never discussed starting a family. Every time I brought it up, he had a reason to wait. Have you ever realized someone was moving the goalposts every time you got close? That conversation changed something in me. I started noticing things. The late nights at his office. The way he'd get defensive about his phone. The new cologne that smelled nothing like the one I bought him. And then I discovered my own gift. A talent I didn't even know I had. My firm was expanding into financial consulting, and I volunteered to learn everything. Strategic planning, investment patterns, creating real wealth strategies for small business owners. I was good at it. Like, really good. It came naturally in a way nothing had since I was that little girl watching my mom do taxes. I told Michael I wanted to start my own boutique consulting firm someday. His response crushed me. Sarah, be realistic. Starting a business requires business acumen, which isn't exactly your strong suit. Besides, most small businesses fail. Why risk what we have? That was the moment I started lying to him. Not about big things at first, just small ones. I opened a separate bank account at a different bank. Just a small direct deposit from each paycheck. Nothing he'd notice. I started reading everything I could about entrepreneurship. Took free online courses. Subscribed to newsletters about investing. All in private browsing mode so he wouldn't see. I turned our rarely used guest bedroom into a home office. Told Michael it was for continuing education. He barely glanced at it. Cute ambition. He called it. Just don't let it interfere with our social obligations. My first client came from a coffee shop. Pure luck. I overheard a woman named Elena complaining about financial advisors charging $10,000 for plans she couldn't afford. She owned a catering business and knew she was losing money somewhere, but couldn't figure out where. I walked right up to her table, introduced myself, told her I was building my portfolio and would help her for a fraction of the cost. Elena took a chance on me, and I found inefficiencies in her business she'd never seen. Restructured her payment terms. Created an investment strategy that increased her returns by 40% in 3 months. She cried. Real tears. The proud kind. Just like my parents, she referred me to other small business owners. And suddenly, I had a real business. Sarah Mitchell Financial Solutions. A website. A growing client list. I worked late nights while Michael was on his increasingly frequent business trips. I converted our walk-in closet into a makeshift phone booth for client calls, using blankets to muffle the sound. Every new client was both exhilarating and terrifying. Through Elena, I met Patricia, a serial entrepreneur who'd sold her previous company for millions and was launching a fintech startup. She hired me for a small project, then became my mentor. You're charging too little. Patricia told me bluntly, triple your prices and watch how your perceived value changes. She was right. When I raised my rates, I didn't lose clients. I attracted better ones. Patricia also taught me about angel investing. about making money work for you instead of just sitting there. Under her guidance, I started making strategic investments, small amounts at first, then larger as my business grew. 4 years into my marriage, I was running a successful company and building an investment portfolio Michael knew nothing about, and he was too busy with his affair to notice. I found out the way most people do. A text message on his phone while he was in the shower. Missing you already. Last night was. The message cut off. But I'd seen enough. Have you ever had your whole world shift in the 3 seconds it takes to read a text preview? I didn't confront him right away. I watched. I waited. I noted his patterns. The late Thursday meetings. The weekend conferences with no websites. The restaurant downtown he suddenly couldn't stop visiting. One Thursday night, I told him I was helping Elena with an event. Instead, I parked near that restaurant and waited at 8:30. His BMW pulled in. 10 minutes later, a red Mercedes arrived. The woman who stepped out was Amanda Walsh, his colleague. I watched them embrace in the parking lot. Watched him kiss her before they walked inside together. My hands shook as I took photos through my windshield. My stomach felt like someone had poured concrete into it. I gave them 30 minutes. Then I walked into that restaurant. They were at a corner table, his hand on hers, leaning in close. I walked up silently, my heart pounding so loud I was sure everyone could hear. This explains the late meetings, I said. Michael jerked back like he'd been slapped. His face went through about 5 emotions into seconds. Shock, guilt, and finally, settling on annoyance. Like I'd embarrassed him by catching him. Amanda mumbled something about the restroom and disappeared. Sarah, this isn't what it looks like. Really? Because it looks like you're having dinner with your girlfriend while your wife thinks you're working. He offered a half apology, claimed it was just physical, and then he blamed me. You've been so wrapped up in your little accounting projects, he said. You've become boring, Sarah, and ambitious. When was the last time you made an effort in our marriage? I left him sitting there, drove around for hours. When I came home, he was already there with promises to end it, counseling, a second honeymoon. I pretended to consider it. But really, I was buying time. If you've ever had to play nice with someone who betrayed you while you planned your exit, you know exactly how that feels. And if this story is resonating with you, please like this video, subscribe to Anonymous Confessions, and share your own story in the comments. I read them all, and I promise, there's power in knowing you're not alone. The next few weeks were a masterclass in deception, both of us pretending, him bringing home flowers, me secretly meeting with divorce attorneys during my supposed client consultations. Rebecca Torres was the lawyer Patricia recommended. She laid it out straight. Tennessee is an equitable distribution state. Without a prenup, the court divides assets based on what's fair, not necessarily equal. But here's the thing. We did have a prenup, and when Rebecca reviewed it, she found something Michael's own lawyers had included, a clause that said any business created during the marriage, without the other spouse's financial contribution, would remain separate property. They'd put it there to protect Michael's future ventures. But it applied to me too. Michael found out I'd been researching divorce when he checked our browser history. I'd forgotten to use private browsing for one search. Just one. His rage was terrifying. He cornered me in the kitchen. Is this what you've been doing? Planning to take my money? I stayed calm. I'm not planning anything, Michael. I was just researching after what happened. Wouldn't you? He seemed to buy it. But the trust was gone. I moved all my business documents to secure cloud storage and put backup drives in a safety deposit box he didn't know existed. Then I found the receipt. Tiffany & Co. $12,000 for a diamond tennis bracelet. Dated 2 months ago. I never got any bracelet. Before I could even process that, I heard the front door open. Voices. Michael and a woman, laughing. I was in our bedroom closet when they walked in. I stepped out to find Michael and Amanda embracing at the foot of our bed. "Sarah," Michael said, not even moving away from her, "you're supposed to be at work." "I took a half day," I said. My voice was calm. "I still don't know." "How?" "Clearly I should have called first." Michael got cold. Businesslike. "Well, this saves me a difficult conversation. I want a divorce, Sarah. Amanda and I are planning a future together." He outlined his terms. I could keep my personal items and a small settlement. The house, the investments, everything else would stay his. "My lawyers will be in touch. You should find somewhere else to stay starting tonight." "Actually," I said, "this is still legally my residence. I'll be staying. You and Amanda are welcome to find a hotel." Have you ever seen someone's face when they realize they don't control you anymore? As they left, Michael turned back. "You'll regret not taking my generous offer. By the time my lawyers are done, you'll be lucky to afford a trailer park." I closed the door behind them, leaned against it, and for the first time in months, I smiled. Michael had no idea that my business was now worth over $2 million. That my investment portfolio had grown to nearly $12 million. That I owned two properties he didn't know about, purchased through an LLC he'd never heard of, while he'd been cheating on me and dismissing me. I'd built an empire. The court date arrived. Michael showed up in a tailored suit, smirking. Amanda sat in the gallery. His lawyer, David Harrison, was one of Nashville's most aggressive divorce attorneys. Michael signed the divorce papers with a flourish, actually laughed as he capped his pen. As he walked past me, he whispered, "Enjoy going back to your parents' farm." Then my lawyer, Rebecca, stood up. She presented evidence of Michael's hidden accounts, his spending on Amanda, his financial deception, and then she handed the judge a sealed envelope. "Your Honor," Rebecca said, "Mrs. Shannon's complete financial statement is ready for submission." Judge Williams opened the envelope. "Read in silence." Her eyebrows rose just slightly. "Sarah Mitchell Financial Solutions," the judge read aloud. "Current valuation, $2,100,000. Michael's head snapped up. "Investment portfolio, $11,900,000. Michael gripped the table. His knuckles went white. "Real estate holdings, $1,200,000. Michael looked physically ill, his face drained of color. David was whispering frantically in his ear, but Michael wasn't hearing anything. He just stared at me like I was a stranger. "Total disclosed assets, over $15 million, the judge concluded. The courtroom was completely silent. Do you know what it feels like to have someone realize they never really knew you at all? Michael tried to argue that he deserved half, but the prenup clause protected me. Every penny I'd earned, every investment I'd made, every property I'd bought, it was mine, built without his help, without his support. Despite his constant attempts to keep me small, the judge ruled in my favor. I kept everything. As I walked out of that courthouse, Michael stood alone in the emptying room, his whole world shattered by the very woman he tried so hard to break. And honestly, that's where my real life finally began.